Randomly with Ronnie Jr.
I guess we should start things off though. So we're going to chat with Mark Rodriguez, who I've known for some time, a different level of, I would say, like career passions. But right now we're hunkering in on you being the founder of Mastermynd, spelled with a Y, Mastermynd Media. We'll chat about all your other stuff. Mark, thank you for chatting for a little bit and having a good time on what I hope is a good YouTube channel. You know,
Yes, sir.
I came from radio, so now it's time to do it, right?
Let's do it.
Tell me, like, initially, like, how do you define it? So, like, Mastermynd Media, strategy of digital stuff, all things digital, or?
Yeah. And Mastermind with a Y because the I was already taken, which
of course, yeah.
No, we actually, I had a separate company before called Mastermynd Entertainment, and we didn't know what to call it. So we actually did the same thing that Childish Gambino did.
Mm.
You know what he did?
What did he do? Oh, well, he's done a lot of things. So I can't keep track.
So the Wu-Tang name generator. So he didn't know what his rap name was going to be, so he chose to do the Wu-Tang name generator, which anybody can go on the website. And we clicked it a few times, and then Mastermynd came up, and we ended up doing Mastermynd Entertainment. That was kind of short-lived, and then after a few years, when I eventually founded Mastermynd Media, it was kind of natural. Especially, I think it even flowed even better with the two M's.
Yeah.
You know, so
instead, though, I think you just like hunker in on, like for me, when I was like creating this experience too, to do the long-awaited like YouTube channel for Ronnie. Talking in third person already. But when I was thinking about doing that, or I was thinking about doing a podcast, I was like coming up with all these great names. And like at the end of the day, you kind of got to go with what people do know and associate you with. So I was like, everyone's always said RJ, so let's keep it with Ronnie Jr. and let's keep it with Randomly, because that's kind of like set in stone. So very similar to yours. Now, what the heck, though, does a brand strategy, career, yada, yada? Because I feel like I'm one of these people who started doing radio in 2001, and then I look at the digital people, and I'm like, but I'm not a hater. But tell me, like, what the value in is with all this stuff.
Yeah, so with all this stuff, social media is, especially now, we're going through this quarantine where all of the eyes are on social media. So what we try to do with the different brands or businesses we work with is really extract the value, because a lot of people don't have the creative, but they have the business, or they have the business, but they don't have the creative. Right. We come in with both, and we're able to formulate based on whatever they're great at or whatever they love to do, and extract that value, and then create content around it, whether it's voice, whether it's, photos, lifestyle photos, and then, take their message and streamline that through it so that they can eventually create an audience that they can use as leverage in future negotiations.
And it feels like it's maximizing the art, whatever that particular thing is. Or I guess in your case, it's not art, because I guess you consult for like a lot of different brands.
Yeah, really across the board, yeah.
But what's so interesting about that, Mark, is like, it does feel a little bit like the people, let's just like stay in the arts for a moment, the people who have like this immense amount of talent, because they care mostly about the craft, they don't care about how they, access that to like a digital audience. Whereas the people who really don't have a lot of talent, they actually do care quite a bit about selling the story, even if it doesn't hold up, which is sort of where I had a little bit of a roadblock, because I was like, I'm not saying I'm like great artistically or whatever, but I like cared about radio. I cared about broadcast. I was like, the last thing I want to do is like do some bogus ass YouTube channel. Like I felt a little bit of that struggle, not to be like high and mighty, but I did.
And a lot of people, starting over is really hard for a lot of people, especially when they had some success in the past or whatever too. But I think the main thing is really loving what you do. And there was a really interesting period of time where I think more people are kind of coming to terms, especially like, you see like McConaughey jumping on Instagram, and these older actors, they never had to do that before.
Right.
But then, Will Smith, we shared the same acting coach. And he came on, and after a long time being away or never even getting on Instagram, and then really found his lane and saw that this is something necessary, because as actors, for a long time, it was all about being kind of mysterious so that when you're on the big screen, they can separate who you are from the character. You still see like Keanu Reeves.
That change that don't exist no more. And
right.
fortunately, unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, it hasn't been that way for a while. Now there's like this great value. You know who I want to talk about as far as like they give me a goofy, fun, authentic online representation, and I don't think it's bells and whistles, and you know she got the money to do so. I think Tina Knowles, or Tina Lawson, Beyonce's mother, is funny. And I think the reason I think she's funny, and I'm not the biggest Beyonce fan, I don't want to alarm the world, but I'm not exactly the biggest Beyonce fan. We'll get to that another time. But I think Tina is authentically, like, she does like kooky, corny jokes, her words, not mine. But because it's so authentic, I'm like, oh my God, I want to see her, you know, like cooking. I want to see her, you know, having date night with her husband, stuff like that. So I guess one of the main things that I'm trying to take away from what you're saying is the authentic nature needs to sort of be there.
Absolutely. When you kind of peel that all away and you find out who you truly are, number one, it's going to resonate with people more. But also you're going to be happier. And if you're happy and you don't care about the numbers, then the numbers will come down the road, because everybody wants this quick turnaround and wants this big audience. And they end up selling their soul to get there. Or one thing,
that's
the number one thing that I don't like. What's that?
I feel like that's also not sustainable, you know, but that's somewhat of a little bit of a, I ain't gonna hate on the young folks, but that's a little bit of sometimes a young folk mentality. Like, let's just, you know, they used to call this word years ago, even before my generation, flash in the pan. I just feel like you got to know, I think you talked about your lane. I think you got to know your lane, because for me, I feel like there are some goofy things I could probably do to enhance everything that I'm trying to accomplish, but I don't want to be a flash in the pan. Like, I want to sort of be like, okay, if I'm a hunker down and do YouTube, if I'm a hunker down and do podcasts, I'm going to stay in my lane, drink my faux wine, and have fun with it. So that's kind of like where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. And like we talked for a second off the air about Joe Rogan doing his own thing and everybody doing their own thing, not necessarily, you know, you can take from other people. You're like, I think it's, who said that? Was it Tom Hanks or somebody said, like, you're a fool if you don't steal from everybody you've ever worked with artistically. Mm-hmm. But what the number one thing that I do not recommend, we were in the process of organizing a high school kind of campaign where we were going to go on a tour and kind of speak this into the high school so they kind of truly understand, you know, what they're doing with their time. You know, a lot of people that want to be influencers, they're like, they'll do whatever it takes to get the views. So they'll end up going out and just kind of disrupt something and just to get the views, to get people's reactions, or do a prank that, like, you know, you see what happened with like Logan Paul and that whole camp. But when you're younger, you don't understand that. You know, if you get, you know, you're 16, you get 50 million followers, and you're like, you know, or like Justin Bieber's kind of arc in his career. But if you're creating stuff just for the views, it's not influencing people positively, and it's not helping the world out. Like, funny stuff here and there is cool, but if you're going out there and you're just like destroying something just to get some views, we don't want to reward that.
It's going to consistently sound like, I guess, hating on the young crowd, but that's not the point. The point is, this is more just like, listen to an old school cat and hear what I'm saying. Like, so for me, like when I did the Fuse TV VJ search, that was a national audience. Like, that felt like that moment. I remember when it was live television, IFB monitor, you know, director downstairs, like it was the whole thing. And I did it. I was very good at it and it was fun. And then as soon as that ended, I was the second, you know, first runner up, second place. And as soon as that ended, I did have the meetings. Like, everything was moving. This was before digital really took off. I say that to say, for the people that are like just trying to be a flash in the pan or like do something that is against your lane, it's going to be short lived, because you couldn't tell me back in that day that, like, oh, because I was up at the moment, I remember taking meetings at MTV and here and there and agents and managers and stuff like that. But then, like, it all goes away really quickly unless you like sustainably have that jolt. For me, the equivalent of that jolt was Fuse Television. Once that was done, it was like, I was like, all right, let's at least get a radio job. And then radio was treating me crazy. So I was like, oh, shoot. That, to me, I only say that to say it felt like a fucking lesson.
Right. But look at you still doing radio now, or still starting a podcast. Like, if
and above all, remember, my main get, I'm a sexy motherfucker. That's number, like, my attractive level is really where, you know, the people come. Okay.
We already know that, but yeah, that's the thing. Is like if you were doing, imagine you did that. If you didn't like hosting, or if you didn't like radio, or any of those kind of jobs, and you're doing that whole thing, you get second runner up or whatever you said you placed that. And I remember you. I think I knew you from that.
Yeah.
When I first met you at AfterBuzz, when we were doing that whole thing,
Right.
I remember like, oh man, yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
But you love it, so you're willing to take the hits, because this is the hardest business in the world, in my opinion, or one of them, the entertainment business. You have to love what you do, otherwise it's not worth it.
Right.
The downfall's too hard, man, and it's gonna come.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is, you see, gosh, sometimes I wish she was still around. You see, Joan Rivers was like the master of reinventing the career. So like when I was growing up, Joan Rivers was this one thing, and I kind of thought that's how she always was. But then when you go back and look at her life, and there is a good documentary online or Netflix or whatnot, just go search it. Joan Rivers was the queen of reinvention, which I'm going to transition a little bit to like asking you about your version of like, okay, I'm Mastermynd Media now. I know that's encompassing a lot of different things, but can you tell me about, or just to even explain, your other passions were, of course, you did some time. You were also hosting at AfterBuzz, a very early on stage of online content as far as a host. But then your music seemed at one point when I knew you, like, that's what he's going to do. He's going to hunker down. Like, we even wrote a song together. Like, we even, like, you helped me with that experience. And then there's a moment I look at you and I'm like, oh, Mark is going to go into acting. Tell me what that's like for you as far as like reinventing, and like, do those passions go away, or are they just kind of on the wayside at the moment?
Yeah. So for me, I moved to LA from Detroit when I just turned 20. And I told myself, if I don't make it as an actor in 3 years, then I didn't try hard enough. Boom, I come out here. Okay. So does everybody. Everybody has a great look. Everybody is really talented, if not more talented. And at that time I was waiting tables, bartending. I turned 21 out here and just made a new group of friends because I didn't know anybody. I make a group of friends. I'm in the bar scene for the next 3 years. And then I had the audacity to think that I can still make it, and I didn't put in 12 hours a day in acting. You think you're going to make it and just kind of come out here and it's just going to happen? You'll be discovered. That's not how it works. So that was my mentality when I moved here that I had. It took me a while. I definitely, I had to grow up mentally. So acting was always the number one thing for me. So I started dabbling with some other things. I liked hosting. I feel like I could pull off a lot, writing music and performing. The hosting stuff was probably at the time, the lowest on all the things that I actually like to do. But for me, from 23 to 28, it was like a dabbling period with all of those different lanes, because I can pull off a lot. I'm a very creative person, and I like doing those things. Like, that's what I'm best at, is performing or anything creative. But around the age of 28, I kind of took a step back and said, okay, you've done all these things, which I think is very important to kind of test everything. And there was a time where I regretted it, but I wouldn't have gained all of those. My network wouldn't be as large and as kind of broad. And those skills still come in handy, whether it's even speaking like this. I might've been really nervous and been like, I don't know how to do interviews or whatever, but spending time at AfterBuzz, I was able to do that. So when I met you, music was probably at the forefront.
Right.
But my self-awareness tells me that I'm a better actor than I am in anything else.
Okay.
So at that point, I kind of scaled back. I went all in on acting, because at that point I also realized I need to spend all this extra time. I was kind of obsessed with being busy at the moment. I took a step back and focused all on acting, and then writing a screenplay that could be a vehicle for my acting career. So now, since then, I've gone through other things with different businesses and this and that. But my life, I love creativity and I love business. And that's, kind of the arc that I've had. And I'm at the point now where I really understand what's going on. So now having two companies, Mastermynd Media, which we do, all social media, branding, helping people grow their followings and all that. But then I also have the production company where we're pitching a film that I wrote, and we're actively, creating other pieces, TV shows, more digital content there. So my day in and day out is literally always creative and always business heavy. But luckily, I found a way that both of my worlds allow me to make money and stay really creative pretty much every day.
You know what's funny though, Mark? I got to go back to one thing you said. And again, it really does sound like I'm schooling these young kids, and that is not the intent, because, you know, I'm old and washed and I'm drinking my fake wine. So you could judge me all you want, but I'm going to tell you what I feel is important. So Mark did a classic thing that I feel like we all do. We have, and I, you know, got the universe, or God bless you, or whoever you believe in, but this whole facade about being busy is not legit. Okay. This whole team no sleep, it is trash, and I'm gonna say that, and it's trash on top of trash. Because the thing is, like, we talk about sustainability. Like, again, Mark could have made it at these young ages or whatever, and I think so could have I. But like, there is a part of me that's like, oh my God, I kind of was like a hot mess at that time. Like, I hadn't dealt with et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I feel like, you know, it's kind of cool to be like, yo, sustainability. And if you think of your career in that way, and you think of your career as being able to shift and adapt, you'll be good. I do want to go on one more thing that's saying, yeah, you went into hosting, which is fantastic. AfterBuzz, that is one of the places that we got to work together. Yeah. But what I think is cool about that is, like, even if it wasn't your favorite passion, Mark, there's so much value in like doing something that is still in your world, but can teach you a lesson or two. I remember when I was doing radio with Rick Dees at the moment. And this was when Rick was still very much in his heyday. I mean, he's a legend at all, you know, across the board, but Rick Dees radio. It was a thing back when radio was a thing, you know, and I'm doing his show. And I remember somebody lightfully said, oh, why don't you try improv class? And I did about 4 different classes at IO West, just because I don't know that I was good at it, Mark, but I felt like very similar to you with like going into the hosting world. Acting was your baby, but hosting made you better at acting, maybe in some weird way. And for me, it was like radio was my baby, but then I'm like, well, if I get into my improv bag a little bit, that might be helpful. And so anyways, a second ago, I mentioned that Mark and I was more just the guppy that sat there, but Mark allowed me to try to write a song. So this was just a moment that I was like, I guess I was ambitious and foolish as hell. And I said, Mark, I want to write a song.
I'm so glad you did, man. That experience was amazing.
You fool. You were like, sure, come on over and we'll write this dang song. It was called Running for a Reason, and it was fun. I was probably horrible at it. I never want to do it again.
Because you didn't enjoy the experience, or because why wouldn't you want to do it again? Just because it wasn't kind of your thing, or?
Okay, scratch. I will do it again, but like, okay, your answer, because it's a good question. Because with radio, I knew how to like move it around. Improv, I didn't know how to move it around, but I at least was decent at it. Every other thing, I like knew what was going on, or it didn't jolt me the way that jolts me. It was literally like you kind of like, you know, you were the person who knew how to songwrite, and you're telling me all these things, and I'm like, I guess what I'm saying is I really did feel like it was a vulnerable ass. Like, it was a song that I was actually in the midst of moving from my hometown of Los Angeles to New York. So the song was equivalent to that experience. So yeah, I won't say I'll never do it again, but I will say it was like really hard. That's what I felt super insecure. I felt like a dummy. I felt like a dummy, but I was proud of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I mean. Even that experience of kind of what I talked about with even the social media stuff for extracting value, it was like extracting kind of how you were feeling at the time, and kind of you bringing down your walls and letting me in for a sec to, you know, to really create a piece. That's what you have to be, is vulnerable to create anything that's great.
Yeah.
And then we're able to write a really great song that you know had a really powerful meaning. That
you performed it at a bar on Melrose too. That whole experience, I felt, like I said, it was good. I'm proud to look back. I don't know if the song was that great, but it was like it was rough.
For sure. But I'm so glad we did that. That was a really unique experience. I've never done anything like that.
Yeah.
Someone that had never written before or written a song in that way. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was a good, cool learning experience for me too.
And all those things that you do that you're not good at is just permission to try the next thing in, as I said, Joan Rivers and her career reinvention. Mark, tell me about a highlight. You said it wasn't your end all be all, but tell me about a highlight in music, because it kind of had to be a cool experience, you know?
Yeah, and listen, I still would love to, you know, I got a lot better than where I initially started. You know, when I moved here, I came from a place where nobody, like, I didn't even want to tell people that I would like stay in my room and play guitar and write songs about girls. I didn't want anybody to know that because I didn't want them to think that I thought I was good at it.
Why do we do that? Why do you think we do that?
Just based on the mentality that I was built with in Michigan, that's all, let's play sports and let's not be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then you come out to LA, you do one open mic and everybody's like, oh my God, that was great.
Yeah.
And like, hey, we should connect. And you're like, wait, people do this out here?
I also,
think it's changed now.
Not to cut you off, but I also think we do that because we would prefer, okay, you know what I'll use? I'll use, because, you know, obviously my weight has been, my you know, in my adult life been up to 320 and also been down to 175 and struggle with, you know, what this beautiful 40-year-old body looks like at the moment. But my point is, like, if I were to tell somebody, oh, I'm really like trying to watch what I eat and I'm trying to exercise, there's a bit of a vulnerability. You almost, when you're doing something that you're new and not good at, you almost kind of want to like go, as you said, in the bedroom and run off and learn it and then come back and say like, okay, here world, I'm good, let's go. You know, we just don't want anyone to see our our whackness.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting kind of mindset, but and I think the internet has definitely leveled the playing field in a way, not even leveling the playing field, but it kind of opened people's minds to these other things where, you know, like I said, growing up, it was all sports. You know, I was doing some kind of like, I was like the kid at the school dances that was dancing like Michael Jackson in the circle. Like that was me. Right. Yeah. And I was like, I love performing.
That tracks. We could see it.
Yeah. But now, but yeah, so now coming out here and being able to do the music stuff, I think the highlight for me within the music, to go back to your first question, was probably creating the Singing Saturdays event, because it became a really cool place for about 4 years. You know, it was my way of life for a long time, where I was in and out of you know, different places, showcases, and recruiting more talent, and just seeing how many talented people there are out here. It really was like an eye-opening thing.
I want to get into Mastermynd Media again, and of course, like how this feels really great, and it's kind of like an up moment for you. And you, of course, now that digital is just everywhere, you could consult, and I love all that. I want to also talk about like this honest vulnerability of like so you said like you had put money into another project to the point where it took you to being, I don't want to say homeless. Homeless might be not the word. Tell me what that was.
Yeah. So for me, so going back to how I spoke about, for a while, I was testing out these different things all within the entertainment business. And then realized I needed to put all my time onto one thing for a while to really see some growth in that, which was acting. And then I had just gone through, I went through a breakup, and I had just figured everything out. I'm like, okay, I'm putting all my time into acting. And then I was at home, Snapchat was on, and I grabbed my guitar. I wanted to play a song on Snapchat and play guitar and sing. And then that's when I grabbed my phone, and I realized that I couldn't play and sing and hold the button down because I was at home alone. So that's when I looked around my room and I grabbed my guitar capo, which usually goes on the fretboard. It comes down like this. And I snapped it to my phone and was trying to use that to hold the button down. But it was like putting pressure where it needed to hold the button down, but it wasn't working because I thought I needed something that felt like a thumb. Right. So I went and found a loaf of bread, cut a piece of bread off, connected it to the capo, right, and it held the button down. It propped up my phone, and it worked. So I had this moment in my it was a loft style apartment, and I'm sitting there like, wait, is this brilliant or is this stupid? Like, what is this? Like, what did I just figure out? Yeah. And so I started doing hands-free videos on Snapchat, and people started hitting me up like, how are you doing that? How are you doing that hands-free? So I deleted all those, and I went all in based on my knowledge of you have to go all in to make something happen. I stopped acting for about a year, and went all in on this. Found some people that I put on my team. We were meeting with millionaires, billionaires, pitching this idea. Got really closer to like a year in the making, and getting really close. We knew we were going to make it in Sun Valley, California. We knew how much it was going to take, how much money we needed, and then Snapchat changed, and it made this invention unnecessary, because now you could press the button down and slide it over and lock it, which was always the risk. We knew it was the risk. We were just trying to get to market sooner.
Yeah.
So I lost everything. I had sold everything that I owned. I moved in with my friend. It was already furnished, so I didn't have a bed, this and that. I sold my guitars, sold everything. Was driving like a 92 Lexus.
That was a good year, man. 92.
Hey.
Not to sleep in. Not to sleep in.
but I had this old, so I like literally, from having like leasing cars, paying, anything I wanted, going out all the time. I stopped all that, focused on this, and had this huge learning year where I ended up losing everything, but I gained so much knowledge that I kind of was like, okay, what do I do now? So for a while, I was sleeping on friends' couches here and there, but I never wanted to overstay my welcome. Something that's built in me is that I don't like asking for anything. So it was a cool experience for me to get over that and, ask for when needed. I was sleeping in my car as well from time to time. It's funny, we'll drive around here. I'm like, oh, this is a good place to sleep if you're sleeping in your car because it's lit. It's like but I was happy during that whole time. I have videos from Snapchat that I'm not ready to share yet. I'm probably close to being ready to share, of me sleeping in my car, just listening to music, smiling, because I'm like, at least I'm not doing a job I don't like anymore. That I'm all about going to get a side job or go get a full-time job to afford you to do what you need to do. But the place that I was working wasn't working out, and I was just happy I was working for myself. And then somebody asked me if I could run their social media, and I was like, nah, I can't. This and that. They're like, well, I'll pay you $800 a month. You can run my social media, my Instagram and Facebook. I was like, okay, so I started dabbling. So I learned so much from just this invention that I created in influencers and social media, that I was able to use all those strategies and tactics into social media. And then I started watching other people, learning. And I found out that I was very valuable because I could bring the creative from doing hosting and music and acting and screenwriting and all this stuff. And then I could also had this business knowledge that I just gained. It's like I went to business school for a year and learned everything that I needed to know at the time. And I started building 1 client, 2 clients, 3 clients, back to 1, back to 0, back to 2, but for a while. And that was an up and down moment as well. And I forget what your initial question is, but yeah, so from there we started building this company that.
It was just along the lines of like, yes, it's working now, Mastermynd, but like, how do you go from those, sleeping in your car moments and then to and it really just from perspective, it sounds like it just kind of, even though the 2 ideas are completely different, like the one started organic and you didn't expect Snapchat to sort of take over, it sounds like the common through line for that is that, you put in your heart and soul into the one thing and it didn't work, and then you had your little down moment probably, for sure, and then the moment like this other like newness came to your life, you're like, oh, okay, well, 800, I do need the 800. And then you started like, okay, I want to learn more. Like it all comes from the same place. Kind of like what we said before. Like if I'm an actor, I still am going to be successful as a songwriter just because they are different. Well, I'm not saying you're going to be successful, but you're going to enjoy it because they all come from like a little similar, different walk of life.
Enjoying it for sure. That's the key thing, just enjoying it. Otherwise, it's not like, there were so many really deep, dark moments where, I had like a credit card sued me and took all my money out of my bank account and left me like, wait a second, I'm in this place. I just moved in. I just got enough money to move in. I don't have, I had like $2,000 in my name. They took everything out and left me like, okay, so how do I get through this? And you're forced to figure it out. And you just become more and more of a threat to eventually now, we have a team of 5 at Mastermynd, but for a long time, it was just me. And then I'd have a person would jump on, they would jump off. And it just really turned into a really positive, lifestyle brand that we're kind of instilling into our clients, whether it's consulting or doing the content and stuff for them. We're helping them kind of just really show what they love and show how they're valuable, and then put that throughout their content. And then, we're doing the same thing with Mastermynd, trying to get, other people to feel the same way we do about what we do.
Mark, we could go so long regarding Mastermynd, and you can talk a little, let the people know about, Toys R Us and maybe some mishaps they possibly made and walk about. I'm not going to do that because you can go to the website, you can get all that information. But I will ask one thing that is so important to me, and I guess anyone who's like a creator of any level, like I said, anything from the songwriter to the actor to the broadcaster, whatever it is, I personally do like the celebrities I usually enjoy for like a very specific reason. Like, you know, they're wow, oh my God, Rosario Dawson, like she's given us all these different, you know, she's given us the philanthropic side, but yet she's could play kind of like the naughty girl too. You know, she could be Mimi Marquez. I like people who have, you know, they have a lot to offer. So my question to you is, of the people out there moving and shaking in these creative fields, who, you said Will Smith, you seem to like him. Who are some of the people that are doing it right? And then we're going to double right into who are the people that are maybe getting lost in the sauce, because fame is a crazy thing. Do you have anybody in mind with those questions?
Yeah, so the Rock does it really well. I always point people at the Rock because he doesn't always have to go full production to do all this. He'll sit outside in Hawaii. He told a story in his truck with his iPhone just facing at him, telling a story about this place that he used to live in Hawaii. Then he turned the phone and that's where it was. And he looked at the place that he wanted, where they built like right in front of his place, that he wished that he could live one day. And he told the story right out front of his house. And it was just such a cool moment. He was telling a story from when he was broke and didn't know what was going to come next, but he knew that it wasn't going to be like that forever. So The Rock does a really great job of bringing value, bringing truthfulness. Kevin Hart does it really well now too. He's doing a whole series, Confessions from the Heart, where he's telling, you know, taking this quarantine time to tell stories from back in the day about him and Kobe Bryant going to the Philadelphia basketball camp in high school. He's really found a way. I really like his mentality. His book I've heard is really great. I think it aligns with kind of how I feel. I've been recommended to read it because it feels like it would kind of enhance my already kind of optimistic way of life. But it kind of goes back to your whole thing. Like, I'm not hating, but it's like no shame in the game, because he's found a way to be authentic and build a career and be one of the biggest stars in the world right now.
Right. Misconception, especially because everything is now cut into like digital clips or whatever. Having a little bit of an opinion of something that ain't good on a certain person, that's not really hating, in my opinion. That's That's just like, sure. I could appreciate some of the things about Kevin Hart. Can't really appreciate his cheating ways, maybe. You know what I mean?
Right.
A bit of shade, I suppose. But anyways, next person. who's somebody that's maybe lost in the sauce? Who's not, you know, doing well in the creative aspect?
I just do a kind of whole group. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are creating content around the facade, or a lot of musicians or you know, artists that are trying to show that they're bigger or better than whatever they think they need to be. And I think they're leaving a lot on the table because we truly need their authentic self. But a lot of entrepreneurs will just get the cars and the girls and put them in their videos, and then just, you know, and just kind of put something out there and like offer some kind of training that doesn't really help at all, rather than just buckling down, you know, selling this way of life that just isn't possible, especially being a new entrepreneur. Like, and it's not even about that. It's all about, you know, putting in, you know, the hard work every single day, getting the rest necessary, falling in love with whatever you do best, or finding something that you love and putting all the hard work and making a career out of that. So it's really anybody that's creating a facade and not doubling down on who they truly are. Those are the people that aren't doing well.
Oh, you mean to tell me people are portraying something that isn't the true, authentic self? Mark, are you insinuating that there are people with great metabolism and do coke all day, every day, and they're trying to be a fitness brand? Is that what you're insinuating right this moment?
Exactly.
Ever. Okay, here's the thing about that. That was just me being funny, but here's the thing about that. I believe there's nothing wrong with the term fake it till you make it, but it's gone overboard. like it's just, you know, it's just fake it till you make it. I typically don't like that because it's just not for me, but I don't mind that people say that. You know, I think you should go into a room, you're a new actor, you should and Kevin Hart is your competition. Yeah, you should still be like, no, I got the big balls. I'm gonna get at him.
Yeah.
But like, that just would be your inner confidence. But I just, that's the hardest thing about, to the transparency of why I didn't even want to do something like this, Mark, is because I really was like, oh my God, I want to mess with like a YouTube or a podcast. Cause like people, it's a fake it till you make it thing, where I'm more like, I'd rather double down and be like, all right, I do got the resume, check it. The demo reels is kind of nice, you know, and I've worked in production as well. So I can, you know, speak to that world. But I didn't want to do it because it just seemed like the too much of a fake it till you make it thing. There's no takeaway. There's no question there. I'm just saying that was a hard crossing the line for me. I felt like I didn't want to play in that sandbox. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and once you figure out that for yourself, and you don't care about the views, this and that, you just focus literally on what kind of value you're bringing to other people. Once you fall in love with that, everything else just goes away. It's like a cool moment that you can have longevity in a career. You can do your best work at that point, because if you're creating this facade is probably a lot similar to a lot of these other people's brands that could be facades as well. But if you take a step back, like there's a kid that from Detroit, he's 20. Have you heard the song, I'm bored in the house and I'm in the house bored. Bored in the house and I'm in the house bored. Have you heard that being remixed a billion times?
Heard it. It was not my favorite. Tell me more.
Right. But he's literally in his house and did that beat on his hardwood floor with the snapping. And he did a video on TikTok and it exploded. Now he's doing a song with Tyga, I believe. Everybody's using and remixing it. But he was being himself. He's him in his house, and he's just created something funny, and then it takes off.
I'm such a hater, Mark. You have to consult me. I'm gonna have to hire Mastermynd to simmer this grumpy ass old man down, and you'll give me a discount. That's what's gonna happen. Last thoughts, but before you do your last thoughts, I want you to tell me one nice thing about my queen, J-Lo. And you could say more than one, but I know some people don't love her as much as I do, and I don't understand that.
Some people.
Let you go.
It really is randomly, isn't it? Favorite things about J-Lo. So I think I told you before, Will Smith works with my acting coach, Aaron Spicer, who's on all his things, and J-Lo does as well. And he's talked really highly about her career. She's come about. I love how honest and truthful, and I'll go back to you talking about reinventing yourselves. She is probably the queen of that, in my opinion, just being able to, I know you said Joan River before. I think she's right up there with her, being able to do the music, do the acting, do these different things, and coming from as a dancer, she's really had a career of doing what she loves to do and being really great at it. So she's a superstar, and I love it. It's really cool to watch her and A-Rod do whatever they're doing, whether it's like a TikTok in their living room now during this time. But she feels like one of the most authentic people. And she did, I don't think I waited on her. When I was waiting tables back in the day, she came in and you can just, feel her in a room, and she's just a great person.
And for those people who don't like her for whatever reason, I'm not gonna not
like J-Lo.
I'm not gonna. I mean, there's some, and I'm not gonna allow you not to have your perspective. That's fine. But I will say one thing to think about with J-Lo. I just talk about her a lot because I, pretty much consume a lot of her content and just her, her ideologies and such. But more so, you have to think like, if she, because she always gets that critique, like, well, she's not vocally, and she's not the best actress. Okay, that's life, right? But she definitely comes to win at every project, and she definitely has managed to sustain it. So there is something to be said about that. I remember watching the Super Bowl performance and being like, almost like a little bit nervous. I was like, and I love J-Lo, but look, we got to we got to give the roses to Shakira. And I said, and I remember being like a little bit like literally nervous. I said, oh my God, J-Lo, you got the big balls, J-Lo, because you got the big balls to say, oh yeah, we're going to let Shakira go first. I mean, if I was J-Lo, I may not have done that because I don't know that I could follow that up and have all the eyes on me. And lo and behold, she hops up on that pole and she gives it to you, and she gives it to you good. So that is what I take to the question of like, why do I like her so much? Yeah. It's just I take this part of me that's like, I'm a little shy, Mark. I'm a little timid. I'm a little like, I worry about a lot of things. I always equate it to Virgo. I'm a September birthday. I don't know if that's what it is or if I'm just, punk ass bitch. I don't know. But J-Lo seems to be the antithesis of that, and I get inspired by that. Yeah, I really, really do. Last thoughts creatively, or just something you want to put out?
Absolutely. Super excited about, I think I said this off the air before we came on, super excited about you doing this. You were one of the first people when I started my little hosting stint in, what year was that? Was that 20?
It felt like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
10 or 11 or 12, yeah.
Yeah, you were literally, I'd seen the other hostess and that, you were literally like, I was like, oh, so that's how you host. Like that's how you do it. I learned so much from you during that time, and still do. And I'm so glad that you're doing this whole podcast situation, whether how random or specific it is. I really think going on all in on this is going to be really, really amazing for you. And I can't wait to see where you take it.
That would be good. I mean, as long as I'm having fun, I guess that is the number one key. All right, cool.
Yes, sir.
Mastermind Media. Do you have to plug any of the social media handles? I guess that's kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah. If you want to follow our journey at Mastermynd Media, I'm Mark Rodriguez TV. Obviously, Ronnie Jr. has known me as many different names as I've figured out my way in this entertainment world. But so Mastermynd Media, and that's with a Y. And then Mark Rodriguez TV. Follow along, and we'll continue pushing some positivity your way.
All right, fantastic. That wraps it up. Gotta go.
Yes, sir. All right, thanks, brother. I appreciate it.